Welcome to the Life of Passion podcast. I'm your host, Dallas Michael Sear, and for the last 15 years, I've been a speaker and life coach supporting my clients in living lives and building businesses filled with purpose and passion. And here at the Life of Passion podcast, we speak to passionate entrepreneurs, inspired creatives, and conscious leaders who have amazing stories of living lives of passion. So if that sounds good to you, if that's something that you desire more of, let's go. What's up, friends? Welcome to another great episode of the Life of Passion podcast. And this week, I get to interview a good friend of mine, Cal Callahan, who is the host of his own podcast, The Great Unlearn. And if you haven't heard it yet, please go check it out. It's amazing. And I had the opportunity of meeting Cal at a special time in both of our lives. And we talk a little bit about that in this episode. But what I love is that Cal is someone who is genuinely interested in others. He has just a true curiosity. And in so, you just can't help but just, like and fall in love with this guy, because there's a quote that I don't know who to credit, and I'll paraphrase, but essentially it's, if you want people to like you, be interesting. But if you want people to love you, be interested. And that's one of the things that, is so powerful about Cal, because while he's extremely successful in business and in life and, goes golfing on a regular basis with people like Wayne Gretzky, you never know it. And you feel like the celebrity when you meet him. So really wonderful conversation that we have here. A little bit of a tearjerker. I teared up and almost started crying myself. So you might want to get some tissues. He talks about being in Vegas at the time of the mass shooting and what he experienced and what came up in his mind when he was literally dodging bullets. He talks about taking the armor off of his heart so he can connect more vulnerably with his wife and children, and also about what he's most passionate about right now in his life. So this is an amazing episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your questions. So please feel free to comment below. If you then click the bell, subscribe, do all the things, share, and we'll see you on the other side. What is up? How you doing, Cal?
Oh, so good. It's so great to see you. It's been like forever.
So excited. Yeah, it's been quite a minute, man. I've been traveling. I know you've got so much going on in your life, which I'm excited to talk about. But seeing that big smile and that wonderful mohawk, I'm super excited right now.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great to see you again. You were definitely a big part of the journey here in Austin
Mm,
as the group, the community really, I feel like came together,
yeah.
5 years ago when we all kind of found each other, and just really a special season for me personally. And yeah, just grateful for men like you who showed up, and yeah, we're part
Yeah.
of that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. I feel the same. I feel the same way. It was amazing to see how organic that was. Literally it's just started in Stefanos's garage with just four guys. And then thank God to you having that space where all of a sudden it was like 30, 40 just amazing men. It was just, yeah, truly a magical time. And like you said, there's a lot more community and connections that happen that kind of like sprout out from that, like that ripple. I get clients, I get friends to this day who tell me how inspired they were because we all know what was happening at the time.
Yes, that's
And
right.
they're like, man, to see you guys like getting together in person.
Yeah, and hugging,
Yeah,
sweating all over each
touching
other.
each other
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and we lived. Hey, everybody, look.
we did okay.
Yeah, we did all right.
Yeah, it was special. What was really cool about that, you're right, it started out as a few guys in Steph's garage, and then it came to my place that, as you said, it was a much bigger container, and it grew to, I think at the height we were in the 40s for the number of guys that would show up, and
Mm-hmm.
it was around a workout, but it became so
Mm-hmm.
much more than that. And I feel
Totally.
like, look, we've been in men's groups and they're awesome when they're like, hey, we're setting up a men's group. This is the container. Great. That work's important. This
Mm-hmm.
was a men's group in a different sense where you could
Mm-hmm.
go work out. And then within your little groups, there were conversations. And then afterwards, guys would go up for coffee or breakfast or hang
Mm-hmm.
out. And we just got to drop in with whatever was coming up in that moment. And
Yeah.
it was just such a gift to have something like that, that again started out as guys just wanting to get a workout in together.
Right.
And
Right.
so many people, what was cool, I thought, someone would move to town, they're a friend of yours, you're like, hey, come to the workout. All of a sudden, they're dropped into all these guys, and now they have
Totally.
a community, instant community
Right.
here in Austin. So they felt at home and they immediately got to drop in and have this incredible experience. So it
Hmm.
was so fun to be a part of that.
Yeah. Totally cool. It was around the time. Was that around the time you started your podcast,
Yeah, I
or was
started
it
the
shortly
podcast
after?
about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I started it in February of 2020, and I'd say this was kind of late fall 2020 is when we started
Hmm.
that. So it was probably 6 months or so after I started the pod, and
Got it.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So, everyone I think has a different definition in terms of how they're living their life, what their personal experience is. But how would you define like living a passionate life?
And I've been just so curious about wanting to have like a full life experience, and I think it's taken many shapes in courses over the years. And
Mhm.
I'd say for a long time, I didn't have a ton of discernment, and that was just part of my path. And so I tried a lot of things.
Hmm.
Um, I said yes to a lot of things, and I gained a ton of experience from that. I've been willing to push the edges, and I'd say that, probably 7+ years ago, I guess it was, back in October of 2017 when I was in Las Vegas during the mass shooting.
Mm,
That was like a pivotal moment for me that woke me up to this life that I'd been living, the things that I'd been seeking, the possessions I was accumulating, the things that I thought made me lovable and worthy,
mm,
weren't the things that were going to serve me. And listen, not the life I was meant to live. And so that moment really woke me up. And
mm,
from then on, and I'd say for the first year and a half after that, I didn't actually know what was happening, but I was on this kind of existential inquiry. It's like, why the fuck am I here? Because it's not for those things.
mhm,
Um, and so within the context of that, I've pursued this idea of like, why am I here? And still, doing the things that, you'd consider work or your job or
sure.
those pieces, but alongside of those things, like being curious about meditation and plant medicine,
Hmm.
breath work and the cold plunge and just all the different ways that we try to learn about ourselves, to
Hmm.
reveal who we really are. And I've so many times I've gone into ceremony or into men's work and retreats with the prayer of how do I get into my heart? Because I've just felt there was an armoring there,
Mm,
and I didn't want it to be there anymore, and it was still there.
hmm.
And I'd say I've been kind of in some ways in pursuit of that. I mean, it wasn't until recently that I was able to dissolve that armoring and really tap into that intimacy with myself, that self-love, that now I get to share that with my wife, Peyton, and my kids,
Hmm.
and my brothers and sisters in the community. And um, but it's been this little, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a carrot that I've been after, but it's been
Sure.
this like splinter that's like there's something there that I'm missing.
Mm,
And I feel like I've been on this journey for that and have recently been rewarded with a connection to self that I didn't know was possible.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, you have like a seeker's mentality, and I think that little splinter, I think it is a desire from God, literally calling us forward.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that.
and it sounds like it took quite an alarming event to kind of wake you up onto going deeper onto this path here, huh? So you said you were in Vegas at the time.
I
Were
was
you
at the
near
concert
it?
I was at the concert,
Oh,
like
wow.
taking cover behind the tour
Wow.
buses when the, shots were being fired. And so it was a real moment.
Sure.
And what I found, and it's not unique to me, but you don't react in a way that you'd think, where you'd be scared shitless. And I mean, we were taking cover for sure, but like something
Sure.
happens in the body where something else takes over
Hmm.
and you're on high alert and there's no
Hyper focused.
bullshit.
Hmm.
Yeah. And, I just had this notion that all those things that I'd worked so hard for were not coming to save me. It's like, okay, so
Right.
what's that all about? That's
Right.
interesting. If I don't make it out of this, like as cool as my life may have looked on the outside, it felt
Hmm.
very empty.
Mm.
And so I carried that with me afterwards and just trying to understand like I played the game like they told me to, and
Sure.
by many accounts won the game. Certainly
Hmm.
more in that regard, to a much greater degree than I would have ever imagined. And yet
Right.
it wasn't it. And it's not, again, that's not unique to me. Many people wake up to that. That was just my awakening to it. And
Hmm.
so going on that kind of, in that time, an 18-month existential inquiry that I didn't realize until, again, a year and a half later. I was like, oh, this is what I've been after. Okay.
Right.
And then it's not like I found it then. It's just now I knew, had more context for like what was driving me. It's like,
Yeah.
why am I here?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like in the early years you were like you said, you were doing a lot of things but didn't have a lot of discernment. And I wonder if that's like just a natural transition and maturity that we just go through, right? Like when you're young, I think you are supposed to try a lot of things, discernment be damned, because you get to
Hmm.
have all of these extreme experiences when you're young, and there's plenty of time to kind of make up for it, and it's like it's almost cool to make mistakes and fuck shit up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I did some very crazy things that I'm glad there weren't phones around back then for.
Mm, yes, sir.
So yeah, so it's just a different time. But then as you go on, what I love that I'm hearing is you've kind of maintained this deep level of curiosity, which I've always loved about you. That's one of the things that attracted me to you, was like as soon as I got around you, you wanted to know about me and everyone else. And I love that curiosity about you. And so it
Mm.
sounds like you've remained curious, but you're just more discerning, where now you're still trying different things, but you're very clear about what it's leading to and what the intention is.
Yeah, and it's just like waiting for things to come to me when it's time to
Mm.
do them.
Hmm.
I think that's one of them where, like I said yes to a lot of things that
Right.
the thing I said yes to wasn't necessarily something that I was not meant to say yes to. It was just the waiting for it and not feeling like I need, just being in this like deadly pursuit of all these things. And,
Mhm.
I think just speaking, not to speak for my wife, but she shared to me in many kind of different ways that she supports me in this journey of curiosity and would love to see more discernment, because that discernment creates trust, for her in me. It's like, oh, I'm okay with you doing these things, but do you have the ability to just allow things to come to you? Or are you just so intent on this? And I couldn't understand that for a while. I'm like, look, I'm trying to fix myself. And,
Mhm.
that was me kind of in an immature stage of that, which again, I think is important to go through and to feel that. What is it like to not have discernment? And honestly, it wasn't until the last couple of months that I feel like that finally dropped into my field. I mean, I'm fucking
Oh, wow.
53,
Right.
so it took a
Totally.
while, but like I get it now, and I don't think I ever won't have it now. Like once
Hmm.
it's anchored in, like I just see how it fits into my life and how it makes my life much easier. Because again,
Hmm.
I'm not out in the pursuit. I'm open to what's coming to me, and then I get to decide, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not my mind deciding anymore. It's my intuition, my heart, my
Sure.
soul. Is this meant for me in this moment? And
Yeah.
it's like it's so easy. I'm not
Right.
missing anything. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I think a lot of people can relate to, this sense of FOMO, whether it's just a little tug or it's like massive FOMO.
Sure.
It's like, oh, I should go do this because this might be the thing. It's like I
I don't
don't
want to. I
feel
don't want to
that.
miss out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel that anymore. It's like I know that whatever shows up on my doorstep and I feel called to do is the thing to do. It's
Mm.
this the divine orchestration that I finally see that, you know, Great Spirit, God,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call that kind of omnipresent force in the
Yeah.
universe, it all makes sense to me now.
Mm.
All the things, I see how it all works, and it's fascinating, and I'm grateful for all of it. And when hard shit happens, and I get to be curious about it. And
Mm-hmm.
when it's really hard, sometimes the only thing I have to hold on to in that faith is this too shall pass. It's just
Right.
fucking hard. I don't know what the lesson is. I don't know how long I'm going to be in this for,
Mm-hmm.
but it always passes. The great times, those always pass too. And so just
Totally.
know that I've always come back to that center. And so to just be patient and know that there's a real gift on the other side of this. But it's
Yeah.
fucking hard sometimes to sit in that. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
sometimes we numb ourselves, whether it's with substances or media
Mm-hmm.
or
Distract.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm okay with that because sometimes we don't have the tools,
Mm-hmm.
and we seem very unproductive at times. And
Right.
what I've learned is there are those seasons, just like an athlete has an off season. Like we need an off season from our production and from us being on. And sometimes it looks wonky and it looks messy and it looks like,
Mm-hmm.
we aren't doing anything. And if we feel like a piece of shit because that provider comes in and says, "What are you doing? Like you're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be doing all these things. Like look at what everybody else is doing.
Right. Well,
You're
that's a big one.
lazy."
Right.
And it's like, yeah, and I just need to be lazy right now. I need to recover from the season we just had. And it
Mm-hmm.
just, that is not honored enough in our society. And
Oh.
I'm hoping that in some way I can start to share that message with people because in the fall, like, I was going through that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had enough sense because I'd been through it before to just know that, while I'm listening to the Pat McAfee show all day long and Kill Tony and like comedy podcasts, and I'm not reading anything or watching anything that's enlightening. And I'm
Right.
not really producing anything as far as work. I mean, sure, I'm doing the podcast, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do some prep and you sit in the podcast. It's not like it's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew it's like this is the season I'm in. And be okay with it. This too shall pass. Just be
Yeah.
patient and give yourself grace. And sure enough, the new year rolled around, and that old voice came in and said, "Okay, it's the new year. Like, what are you gonna do?" And then I recognized that it's actually not the new year. That you and I know that the new year happens, later in the year in March or in that
Mm-hmm.
kind of area. And so I just
Mm-hmm.
pulled back even more. And
Mm-hmm.
then I really just rested and I just allowed for it to happen. And then
Nice.
things just started to pick up and just drop into the field, and I started to follow things without pushing too hard. And
Mm-hmm.
today I'm full guns a-blazing and I feel amazing and I have great energy, and it's just I feel
Oh,
like this life of ease is just at my doorstep.
yeah. Wonderful. I'm
Mm.
so glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing that, brother. Yeah, it's interesting. We're in a time where there's no off switch anymore.
Hmm.
Right. Thankfully, from technology and social media, and now even with AI and future robotics, everything we were already coming through an industrial age where it was not okay to rest, and then that's
Oh,
just been turned up even louder over the years, and I feel like Yeah, like what you just shared is so important for people to hear. Like, you need a rest, you need a pause button. It's okay. Like, literally, if we get to go back to operating with the seasons, and I've shared this on more than one podcast, but it's like it's important for us to be aware that like um, we get to use technology and not have it use us. And so the reason why I'm saying that specifically is because when we start to use things intentionally, then we know we can turn it off, and we can, we can create that space and that pause, and then it's okay to do it, versus it always being on and us feeling like we always have to be attached to it. And then there is no off, and it's not even just like a conscious, healthy distraction. It's a never ending loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that you're talking about like recognizing that you're in that season and then giving yourself permission to do that, and naturally coming through and navigating that with so much more grace and consciousness. And now look at where you're at, right? You get to experience the fruits of that.
Yeah, and we have to give ourselves, we have to give up the when it's going to be over. Maybe
Right,
we was like, hey, maybe I'll just do this for a month. It's like it doesn't
right.
kind of work that way, at least
Oh
not in my
shit.
experience.
You talk to some people, it's like, oh my God, it's been a week. This is not normal. They immediately, like, I have clients I've worked with who after like a week, if not, maybe at best 2 weeks of them feeling confused or lost, they're going to the psychiatrist to get medications. So
Mhm.
yeah, letting go of, I love what you just said, letting go of that need to know when it's going to end. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's going to last 3, 4 months, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what your body and soul needs, and
Mm-hmm.
just allow it to go through that natural kind of swing. I
Mm-hmm.
love one of the hermetic laws is the law of rhythm, and
Mm-hmm.
it's that this idea that if you think about a swing set, and we were told at a very young age that, like swinging forward, that is like you have great energy and you're able to produce. And then when you swing backwards, you're tired and you're not doing anything. And we're taught that swinging backwards is not good. You want to be productive and have
Mm-hmm.
good energy. And so what happens is when we start to swing backwards, we get down to the bottom, we put the brakes on. And so we have to use all this energy to put the brakes on because we don't want to be tired and lazy.
Right.
So what do we do? Then we have to spend all this energy to get back up. And so what does that look like? It looks like us using substances and other things to give ourselves energy. I've
Totally.
certainly done that plenty. But if we just go with the natural flow, when we go backwards and we feel in and allow for us to be tired, be lazy, whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it,
Mm-hmm.
then we get to swing backwards and we have all this energy because we're not spending energy to stop and then to start back up to go forward. And so
That's
it's
great.
this whole law of rhythm, and it applies to many areas of our life
Mm-hmm.
that, for me, it's just given a great context for what we need. We need to rest, we need to recharge, and it's different for everybody.
Sure.
And look, sometimes we need to, use substances. And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Like we're learning about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those things can be super destructive, and I don't advocate for that, but I also know that that's a very, normal thing. And I don't wish that on anybody, but just know that it's just information that you're not, or I'm not surrendering to what's happening. And I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
fight the law of that rhythm. And by
Mm-hmm.
doing that, I'm going to things that get me up and get me to be my best self and be
Mm-hmm.
productive. And when I look at that, it's a false promise,
Sure.
and it just eventually you grind yourself into the ground, and we've all been there. And it's
Yeah,
like I
totally.
think a lot of that is us just not honoring what that law really wants us to do, is it's just to
Mm-hmm.
be in the flow of life.
Right. Yeah, and you said a key word, surrender,
Oh yeah.
you know?
We're not
I,
that, brother. You know
no, yeah. Yeah,
that.
no, control is an addiction that leads to addictions, And so I
Mm,
think many people in life are addicted to control, or to feel the need to feel in control. And what you're talking about is so foreign for people. And obviously, it was foreign for you at one point in your life, foreign for me
Uh,
for sure at one point in my life, you know?
Until quite recently, to
Right.
be honest. Again,
Mm,
it's 53 years old. It's not like I'm a quick learner.
right.
But I
This,
think that that's right. It's like this control, and it feels good because we think we just have so little control over so much of it, but we have
sure.
choice.
That's right.
Like there's, a good friend of mine had mentioned that to me, that idea that we want control, but really what gives us the freedom is that we have choice. And so we get to choose how we move through these seasons. And sometimes the choices don't seem great,
Right.
but they're giving us information about our path. And,
Hmm.
like our good friend Boyd Vardy likes to say, the path of not here is
Hmm.
part of the path of here. It's giving us information. We need to know these things. We need to scratch that itch to know that, okay, that's not it, but it is actually part of the grand orchestration that is happening. And so we need to go to the opposite sides of maybe where our true path lies and what our
Hmm.
inspiration and our mission and our purpose are. But again, we're not given that grace,
Right.
and so I think if people can just recognize that we need to try all the things. That's the experience of life, in my experience. That's the
Yeah, the human
school we're
experience.
in. Yes,
Hmm.
try all the things,
Mm.
as long as it's, somewhat safe. It doesn't have to be
Right.
entirely safe, but not as
Totally.
long as you're, not putting your life in danger or other
Yeah, or
people's lives in
others.
danger. Yeah, it's like can we just understand that it's just trying it all out.
Mm.
See what's here for us, to
Hmm.
carry forward.
Yeah. And going back to our earlier conversation, I think eventually that leads to discernment, you know?
Yeah.
That's how we craft and mold discernment because we get to know these yeses for me and these not yeses for me, and then there's degrees within that even, and we get to learn how to navigate that better, and that sharpens our intuition, or even helps us to remember that we can just tune into that more fully, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing that you mentioned I want to go back to that I think is so amazing was like the armor on the heart,
Mm,
because I really do believe living a life of passion does require us to be so much more connected to our heart. I also believe there's a lot of misunderstandings about what that means for people. I'm a preacher of being a warrior in the garden versus a warrior in the garden versus a gardener in the war.
mm,
And so I think sometimes love looks very strong, bold, you
mhm.
know, courageous, and it can yeah, it can stand up for things in a really powerful and beautiful way. Um, and you mentioning having an armor around your heart at a time. What do you think kind of that was about? Like, where did that come from?
I think it came from just an early age, and it was my perception of what was going on in my family,
Mm.
and that I needed to do certain things to earn love. Do well in
Uh,
school, play sports, and that's how I
mm,
got my dad's attention and love, and that's how my life had more meaning. And not saying that was true to what was happening, but that was my experience, I believe, as a kid. Now, a lot of amazing things come out of that. You adapt to that. And so I became an achiever and I worked
mm-hmm,
really hard. And, in some ways, those are my superpowers. The problem is, as you know, you've done so much men's work and guided so many, men through this journey, that those adaptations become maladaptive at a certain point. And so
sure.
for me, it became I need to show up as the provider, and not the provider of all the things like my heart in that. It was
Mm-hmm,
more, I need to show up and provide for my family. And the more I provide, the more valuable I am, and the more lovable I am, and the better father and husband. And so in times when I wasn't in complete alignment with what my mission was, I would fall back on that and try to provide, and material ways, I would say, is one way. And it just became a problem because
mm-hmm,
I got so wrapped up in that being important that, my wife, Peyton, was really calling forth my heart. She's like, I love all that you've provided in that sense. I'm super grateful. And I don't care about any of it in the sense that I just want your heart. I
Mm.
just want you. I want to know the real you. And so my prayer, like, as I said, going into all this work would be like, how do I let her into my heart? Because that's
Mm.
all I wanted. And I just didn't feel like I had access. And I felt like, you know, there was a time when I was younger where that heart got broken and was vulnerable. And it was like, okay, that's not happening again.
Right.
And I'll just do this thing. I'll be the provider, or I'll be the guy who's in really great shape. And so he had wearing all the different masks,
Mm.
right? As a protection of like, look, I'm a great person. I do these things. I provide for my family. I take care of myself, whatever it may be, right? They
Yeah.
were all masks for me to hide and protect my heart, my vulnerability. And I think I finally just kept showing up to the altar enough in many different ways with the prayer,
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, the veil continued to thin, I would say, over the last 2 to 3 months in a way that was significant. And then it just dissolved. And now I feel like I have access to my full heart in a way that I didn't know was ever possible. It was always my
Mm.
prayer, but I didn't even know what it was because I never experienced it. And
Yeah.
so now I get to give this intimacy that I have with myself, this
Mm.
knowing I have about who I am to my wife,
Mm.
to my kids, like I said, to the brothers and sisters in my community, to the
Right.
world, and it feels abundant. I don't feel like
Mm.
I need to protect anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of men and probably women have had those
Sure.
moments when they were younger that left an imprint that was like, ooh, it's not safe.
Yeah.
I was vulnerable. It was not met with tenderness or care, not necessarily because anybody meant to do that, but it was just our perception of it. And so
Mm.
we protect that thing because if we don't have that heart, that feels like we're going to die.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, I think it's just showing up even when it's fucking hard, even when you're like, God damn it, I've been doing this work and I felt like I was so close 6 months ago. And now I feel like I'm way far away again. Now I feel like it is so locked in. No one's ever getting to this heart. And it's so frustrating because, you know, for me, I knew it was the key
Mm-hmm.
to connecting with my wife. And we're celebrating, you know, 25 years here in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
And
cool.
it's like, that's all I wanted to do was give her that, and I just didn't have access to it. I didn't have the key to unlock it or to dissolve that armor.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
many of us, like you said, because of life events, it's really challenging to be that vulnerable. And so, for those who are struggling with being that vulnerable, you've said a lot already, but like, what specifically would you suggest that they do?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's very individual, but I think that the main thing I would share about my journey is just keep showing up with the prayer, even if it doesn't make sense, even if you don't have the words.
Mm.
It's the intention. And it could look a many different ways. It could be like healing with your father. It could be deepening your relationship with your wife or your kids. And, you know, I think underneath all of that is just getting into your heart. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
at the foundation of what many of us are seeking. It's as simple as that, and it's as fucking challenging as that because something we want so badly, we'll try anything, and sometimes that just puts us out of like the ability to connect with it. And that's okay too. It's the path of not here, but we have to learn all the different ways. But I think having that intention and having that be true, I think the universe, again, or God, or whatever works for you, I think it rewards that persistence and that showing up time and time again with that.
Mm-hmm.
And just self-care, honestly, taking
Mm.
care of yourself.
Great one. Yeah.
Some seasons are better than others. Be
Sure.
okay with that. It's
Yeah.
okay. But having that intention of whatever your physical fitness regime is. It can be anything as long as there's something there. You're
Mm-hmm.
eating, right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're getting sleep when you can. It's like those little things. You're
Yeah.
trying the cold plunge, you're trying the sauna, and you go through seasons when you do it a lot, and you go through seasons when you're like, I'm not fucking doing it. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been in the cold plunge for fucking 3, 4 months
Mm.
where I was going in it every day. And it's
Every
like, it's
day, yeah.
okay.
Right.
It's okay, people. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
those things are really valuable tools. And, we can do the opposite sometimes and see what that
Yeah.
does for us, like play on both edges. And so I think
Right.
just taking care of yourself and just showing the universe that you matter, that you show up for you in those ways too. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is sending a signal
Yeah.
that you care about you and you're willing to do those things. And again, I hate to belabor this point, but I think it's just I can't kind of stress it enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay when we're not in the right relationship with those things. It's just information that like something's not quite right
Mm.
or doesn't feel quite right, and maybe just allow that to just go through your system and play out and just see the pendulum swing back and just be patient and trust. Just have faith in whatever you have faith in, that it all makes sense. At some point, it will all make sense. I had this notion that my childhood, I was grateful for the lessons I learned because, like I said, it gave me what I would call my superpowers.
Right.
But there was still tension in my relationship with my dad. And what I didn't realize, I had tension with my mom too. And it wasn't until I was able to tap into my heart that I got to see my dad's experience through completely different eyes. And then
Mm-hmm.
I healed whatever that tension was. I let go of that old story that I just shared
Mm-hmm.
and I rewrote a different one. And in doing that, I got to see my dad as someone who sacrificed a tremendous amount for me. So it's not just I'm
Sure.
grateful because he was hard on me. And it's like, I'm grateful for all the love that he showed in all the ways he could.
Right.
He didn't have emotional intelligence like our generation has.
Sure.
He didn't speak Spanish either. No one taught him either of those things. So how can I expect him to know that? And so
Right.
to give him that grace and to see all the sacrifices, all the financial, all the time, everything that mattered when it came to me. We didn't have a lot of money, but when it
Mm-hmm.
came to my life, improving my life, giving me more opportunities, it was we'll make it happen. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, oh, you can't go to that school, we can't afford it, you got to go in state. It was, if you want this new bike, like, no, you don't need a new bike. But if you want to do these other things, they're going to make you into the best man that I think you can be. I'll do that.
Mm.
If it means me staying in a marriage, my mom too, staying in a marriage that neither of them felt fulfilled in for
Mm.
years,
Wow, yeah.
like maybe almost my entire life, but they stayed in it in from where I sit because they thought that was the best thing for me and my sister. And so they sacrificed their emotional well-being
Right.
for us because they wanted to be sure we were okay and give us the best chance they could. It's like, are you
Mm.
fucking kidding me? Like,
Right.
what I what kind of sacrifice is that? That's incredible. Like it's not about they had a shitty relationship. That was a story I used to write. Now it's like, holy shit. They didn't stay in the relationship for each other.
Right.
They knew it was long past gone, but they stayed in it
Yeah.
for us.
Very unselfish.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I would do that.
Right. Right.
And in fact, I wouldn't.
No.
So holy shit, I look at my mom as this incredible warrior who
Mm-hmm.
just endured so much
Right.
for me, for me. And my
Mm-hmm.
dad did too. And to be able to see them that way, I can't unsee that. And that just instant healing for all the shit I carried. And so like I said, I get I get all the gifts of what that perception was for me as a young
Right.
kid and even as a young adult. And now I get to let go of all that other stuff that made it sticky in our relationship. And now I have such an incredible relationship with both of them that I never, ever thought was going to happen. I'm just like, hey,
Mm.
that's just where we're at. And I'm okay with it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
underneath it, I wasn't. That was the prayer. Like, how do I heal
Mm.
this?
Yeah.
And it finally happened.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Beautiful, brother. Thank you for that, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just an amazing journey of going from that's typically what happens in the healing process is we move towards acceptance. We start to see all of the faults, and we start to reframe it as the first thing, which reframing is amazing, but sometimes it's just putting lipstick on a pig, but it's a great
Yeah.
start. It's a great
Yes.
start, right? And so and
Yes.
and so it
Yes.
allows us to have this new level of accepting of the thing, and we can have a new level of peace and an even better relationship. But where you went with that shit is I feel is the ideal. And believe it or not, there might even be another layer and depth to it. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I'm here
Who
for
knows
it.
where the heart can go? You know what I
Let's
mean?
fucking go.
That's
Yeah.
right. Sometimes
Yeah.
I can't. Sometimes I can't breathe. It's so intense. But I love that I went to this place of like really seeing how much they were sacrificing and seeing it from their point of view, a whole new level of love, whole new level of empathy. Like wow, it's beautiful,
Yeah, one of the
beautiful.
things too. Yeah, thanks for recognizing that, and I so resonate with that. It's like we can get to this point of acceptance, and that is a really important place to be. And I'm here to say that when you get to the next level, it is exponential how that heart
Right.
opens, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so keep showing up, knowing that like you've done some real work to get to the point of acceptance. Like that's
Right.
massive. We know so many people who don't get there, and
Oh
it's
my
it's
goodness.
just part of
No.
their journey.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And it's you hear it. I've been
Yeah.
there, before.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that, you just never know how different um, things are going to impact, how you get to a point where I feel like I am today. But my wife had got this like deck of cards, which is meant for like a grandmother and a grandfather. And it asks all these questions from basically from birth until where they are right now in different kind of stages of their life.
Hmm.
As you bring the grandkids in, pull a card and you read it out to, my mom is Mimi. You read it to
Mm-hmm.
Mimi and you ask her a question about whatever the stage of life it is. And so for Christmas, we were doing this at the house and
Hmm.
we sat there for a couple hours and my kids and me and Peyton got to ask my mom all these questions and we just got to see her as a little girl and how hard things were. And we got to just get this picture of her life that was like, holy shit, like she's a human. She
Right.
was born a baby too, and she had hopes and dreams, and she had a relationship with her dad that was challenging, and got to see all these threads that I just had never really considered. And it really
Mm.
opened me up and opened my heart up to her and to start to see her in a new way. And that wasn't the thing that broke through, but
Mm-hmm.
it seeded when I was finally ready to open up. It was like, oh, remember all this stuff. And it all just fell into place. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course
Right.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah, amazing.
Super cool. Yeah. What a gift for her too, right? To be able to share all of her and all those memories and moments to her and her kids and grandkids. Yeah.
Yeah, she said it was, I spoke to her when I had kind of opened up to her recently about just what I had finally, how I finally seen her, and I mean, I cried like a baby, like I've never cried on the phone, and it was beautiful, and it was great to be able to share that with her.
Mhm.
And I kind of talked about that experience, and she said, that was really healing for me to be able to share that and to be seen and heard by, people that I love so much. And so just that was such, as you just, you know, pointed out, it was such a
Mm.
gift for her to be able to express that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So incredible. That's
So
exciting, man.
cool.
You've
Oh
shared
yeah.
so much, man. I'm really curious. Like, obviously, this continued journey and curiosity and unfolding is what you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What else are you passionate about right now at this season in your life? Because at being a fairly successful entrepreneur, you can tell people about that journey if you'd like. But is there any specific projects you're working on? And I'd actually love to hear of all the things that you've worked on in your life, invested in and worked on. What has been like your favorite? I know that's more than one question in there. Maybe you can, if you can hold it all.
Yeah, I'll say probably the favorite thing I've worked on, because I learned so much about the process and about how I can show up in that kind of investing space and a private equity space is working with Botanic Tonics.
Hmm.
And I was the first investor there back 4 years ago, and along the way brought a lot of my friends into the investment space, and then gathered ambassadors, and have been part of a key advisory staff for the founder. And I started to see where my gifts are in that space, and so that leads into what I'm working on now. And so
Okay.
Ty Ward,
Yeah.
Ty and I worked together. When I launched the podcast in early 2020, we worked together for a couple of years, where he started out helping with the podcast and creating the brand, and then it kind of quickly turned into him helping me source deals, look at deals, and he has a completely different lens than I do as far as due
Hmm.
diligence. And so it was great to get another perspective on these deals. And so we worked really well together. He went off to do Bookcoin, a
Hmm.
crypto project. And then I was just taking a pause from investing. And so we kind of went our separate ways, and then recently joined back up to start basically Unlearn Ventures 2.0. And
Oh.
it's this just incredible thing that we're building, that like each time we get together, it just continues to expand and evolve and become like an actually a lighter lift,
Hmm.
and brings more joy to what we're doing. And so in short, what that looks like is, certainly we'll be investing capital into companies. I've been doing that for 30 years, and that's
Okay.
cool, but I've done it from mostly a passive standpoint. Write a check and just give me the updates when you can, and I'll try to help you
Gotcha.
with people I know. But
Yeah.
that's why the Botanic Tonics um, project has been so great for me, learning like, okay, there are many ways that I can affect the success of an investment I put money into. And so we're
Right.
really
Right.
systematizing like what he and I were able to do with Botanic Tonics, and that is
Okay.
everything from creating a roadmap for the brand. And then from there, creating let's call it a 90-day accelerator model where they really get to blow up. And within that, we're doing this partner management where it's ambassadors, it's advisors. We're creating the advisory board. We're
Hmm.
managing the investors, and we're keeping everybody, all the key players, in tune with what's happening. And we're connecting them all in a way that makes sense at different stages of development, activating the right people, managing the quarterly updates for the brand, so the founder gets to stay the founder and the visionary and work. I've seen it in a ton of brands that I've worked with.
Hmm.
The founder takes so many bullshit meetings because there's
It
no
gets
one
burnt
to
out.
vet that. Yeah.
Right. Right.
And so we cut that off at the pass, so the
Hmm.
founder gets to take the key meetings and gets to stay in the brand, so there's no burnout, there's no fatigue with that stuff.
Mm.
um,
That's
and
cool.
so there's this whole kind of model that we're building, um, hosting masterminds for the different brands, for their key players to come in, and we're just,
Mm.
drop in to this incredible space here in Spicewood, and we have these
Hmm.
events, and there's just so many different ways that we can cross promote our brands. And We're going to be opening up a fund where we're going to be raising money, and part of that fund, the expenses will go to fund this work that we're doing because we
Okay.
think that if we're involved in the brand in a real way as a partner,
Mm-hmm.
we give it a much greater chance of success because we're
Mm.
allowing, like I said, the founder to be the founder and stay as the visionary. And we're dealing with all the other stuff that is so important.
Right.
And none of the brands I've been involved with have done that well. They've done pieces of it here and there, but no
Sure.
one's ever managed the partners, the key
Hmm.
partners, in a way that is
Interesting.
like meaningful.
Right.
It's like, and so we get to talk to the investors and like, who do you know that can help this brand in this way? And they give us their people, and then we just kind of put them in different buckets. And like, this is when we activate this person. We'll take a call with this person. And then, hey, let's have the founder talk to these people at this point when we're launching this or we're raising
Mm-hmm.
money. And that's the other thing, like capital
Right.
raise. Like the founder's
Oh,
got to be involved at some level, but they're in the
sure.
weeds with it. They don't need to be in the weeds with it. And so we
Mm-hmm.
just take all that shit off their plate. And so
Wow.
again, it serves our purpose because we get the
Sure.
founder that we're investing in being the
Right.
founder, not doing all this other stuff. It's like the lawyer who has the paralegal. We're kind of in that relationship where we're taking care
Gotcha.
of all the stuff that they don't want to take care of, that they don't need to be
Mm-hmm.
taken care of. And so it's this thing that we're building out, and there's different ways that we
Cool.
can work with brands. We can do parts of it, we can do the whole thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it just feels so fun and
That's cool.
easy. And it just Ty has his lane, I have my lane, and it just covers everything. And so we're just
Wow.
super excited about it.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
sounds like you've already said, it sounds like you've systematized a lot of it. Plus, I'm imagine, do you have other people and or staff or in-house or out of house that are helping you as well?
Well, when we'll bring on someone, Austin Floyd. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Austin would be like our media ad guy where,
Gotcha.
he takes care of all the Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff. He's a great player in the space. So he'll be on our team. And
Mm.
we're still kind of parsing out the rest of the team, but we're going to want
Okay.
somebody on the team who's like really good with AI. So we get to
Mm-hmm.
skip a bunch of steps along the
Gotcha.
process, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And then honestly, we'll bring in stuff like
Ad hoc.
astrology,
Right. Right. Oh,
you
cool. Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
it's like, okay, what is,
That's
whether it's for
brilliant.
the founder or the actual company, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, let's just play in that space and let's get curious. Like, what is
Oh
this
yeah.
showing us?
You know what I love
And
too in that space along the same exact lines. I love the astrological part, and I would even see if you've ever worked with wealth dynamics at all.
yeah, Ty has done a shit ton with that. I have
Yeah.
not as much, but he loves that.
Yeah, it's great in the entrepreneurial space because it's built off of the I Ching. So it's yeah. Anyway, yeah, we could talk about that some. But I love just to me that's brilliant. Bringing in that layer is just brilliant. Like where else in like the business space are people like doing that? It's so rare, so rare. So I
Yes.
really love that. I love
I
that.
mean, we've talked to, I mean, every single founder we've talked to, when we're just not trying to, we're just like catching up with people. I had a call yesterday with someone that we
Hmm.
were supposed to talk. The meaning of the call was to talk about this event where they were going to potentially sponsor with their product. We
Okay.
got on the call, it never came up. We just talked about it. He goes, "Hey, what are you guys up to?" And we started talking about it, and he's just like, "Oh my God, I would love to have you guys." Like, holy shit, that is you are addressing a major, major need. And it's like we
Mm,
get this feedback all the time. We're like, well, we're here
right.
for it. We get it. We've seen it from the investor
Hmm.
side, the ambassador side,
Hmm.
and we understand that like we need you operating at full capacity on the shit that's important to you, that inspires you, gets you excited to wake up in the morning. And so
Hmm.
we know the need, we know how to address the need, and it's just a matter of like who do we want to partner with? What are the
Mm,
the brands and really the people that we want to support on their mission? And so it's
mm,
super exciting. We get to be
yeah.
really picky about who we work with. It's not like we're
Yeah.
out there trying to knock on doors like, please hire us. It's like, no,
Mm,
like it's an interview process. Like, is this
yeah.
something that we want to, yeah, be a part of?
I mean, that's a super critical area to be selective in, right? Because it's a relationship, it's a deep relationship, you know? So
deep,
yeah, right. So it's good that you're
big energetic
able to be that
exchange.
huge. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that
Yeah,
sounds like
man.
an amazing project, dude. Thank you for sharing all of that. Wish you all the best with all that.
Thank you.
Um, and you just shared a really key point. I was going to ask you, maybe you can add to it, but I was going to ask you about, when someone's struggling to kind of find their passion or to they might say purpose, they may say passion, but like, work that really makes them feel alive and passionate. One key component I think you just spoke to is doing something that solves a really big problem and almost like excavating, like going back into your history and seeing what caused you headaches and then solving that for people going forward. And that's kind of
Yeah.
what a little bit of what I heard, right? Like you had those experiences, you saw other people suffering with those, you put together a solution, and now it's something you're passionate about, and it's giving you a lot of passion and purpose. Um, I mean, is there more that you would add to like someone who's really trying to find
Yeah, I would, it's
their
actually,
thing?
there's quite a bit more to that. I think that is definitely a thread of it. I think at the basis of it is stop looking for your purpose and your passion and your mission. Um, I, so I was a trader, as you know, I was a trader in
Hmm.
Chicago up until 2013. And so I was a partner in the firm. So I had capital in the firm. So technically I was betting on myself, but technically. It didn't really feel like it. It felt like I just had money in the company and I was getting a great return on it. And plus, I was, making money by trading. But since that time, 2013 has been 12 years, I haven't been able to bet on myself. And for someone who people saw that in me, like, what are you gonna do? Like, we're basically saying, when are you gonna bet on yourself? Like, what the fuck? I would feel that. And I carried a lot of tension around me not being able to bet on myself, me writing checks for everybody else to do their thing and supporting them, which I love doing, but I wasn't betting on myself. And it wasn't until now that again, at 53, that I'm really betting on myself. And I just let go of the story around that. And I just said, when the time comes, I'll know. And at this point, you know, yes, we're addressing the needs of these founders, but that only came about because, you know, I found out what I meant to be doing along with Ty, and we kind of came together at the same time. It's like, okay, this is what we can do. And this thing is iterated so much in the last month of what we're doing. And
Hmm.
so it's just like allowing it to continue to grow and move and peel back layers and reveal itself. And each layer, like I said, it gets like it's an easier lift. It's a lighter touch and it's more expansive and it's easier for us to do because it's more and more into our genius. And it's like this last piece is something we came up with like a week ago. And it's like, oh, this is what we're meant to do.
Hmm.
This is part of our genius. Look at, like, we know these pain points because we've been on the other side of it. Like, what if we could do this? And it's like, oh, fuck yeah. Like this, Ty's like, I can do that in my sleep. And so it's like just trusting that once your path starts to reveal itself, that more is going to come, and don't get married to the first idea of it. Just know that, dig deep into it, but allow the things to fall off that don't fit you anymore. You don't need to do all of it. Like, just
Right.
take the kernels, the nuggets from that and carry that forth and see what comes out of that. And so I think when you're just patient with it, and we've been patient with it. And
Hmm.
also just trusting that like so much is going to continue to be revealed, and we don't want to label ourselves as this is what we do. It's like
Okay.
these are just some of the things we do, and like, what are your needs? And it's like, can we address those needs? And if we can't, can we pull someone in that we trust and we've worked with in the past that can address those needs? And if we can't, then we'll say we can't, but most likely we'll figure that out. And so it's just like, it's almost like what I was saying before with getting to your heart, like just keep showing up in service and with the
Mm-hmm.
prayer and trusting that it will reveal itself when it's time. I wasn't ready. Like Ty and I were starting, kind of work together a few years ago, and it wasn't the iteration that we needed to go through that to see where our pain points were as a partnership and what we did. He
Mm-hmm.
went off on his path and learned so much. I went on my path and learned so much. And we've
Mm-hmm.
come back with those gifts of the real fucking tough seasons. And
Right.
now we're coming through and we're bearing the fruits and we're harvesting the fruits and we're enjoying the fruits of all of that.
Mm.
So it's just trust that it will reveal itself when it's time, which is really hard for people to hear. I get it. I get it. But just hear me in that. I mean it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
in my
That's great.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be for sure. Especially when you're in it, you know.
Yeah.
It's easy in hindsight, and it's definitely, easy when the skies are blue, but man, when it's
Hmm.
fucking pouring
Yeah.
and someone tells you that, sometimes it can still be very helpful because you know that you remember that it's a season, and you can start to like let go of that need for control, and like you said, I love let it reveal itself. I mean that's massive. But sometimes when I know there's been times when I was in it and someone told me that, I was like, man, fuck you, man.
Yes.
I want this
Fucking
to be
right.
done. I
I'm
want
sure
this
there are
to be
plenty of
done.
people out there saying, fuck you,
Yeah,
Cal. Who is this
that's right.
guy? And,
Easy for you to
it-
say
it's
or
it's
whatever.
okay, yeah, and it's okay to fucking grind and do all those things and push
Sure.
forward. I've done all of that, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm not going to do it again, but I just like we're here for the full lived
Experience, man.
experiences. I just want
Yeah.
to honor that in people
There you go.
wherever they're at, and I'm just here to say that
Boom.
just hold some trust and some faith that you will be astounded at some point because something reveals itself that you just had no idea was there. And then you're just like, oh, it was there the whole time.
Mm,
I just wasn't ready for it. I wasn't mature enough. I hadn't, in whatever capacity. And just everything fell into place. And now's the time.
mm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now's the time. Perfect, man. Perfect. Well, I appreciate you being here today, man. This was an
Yeah.
enlightening and beautiful conversation. I feel that another layer of my heart has been revealed just from this talk.
Oh,
I've always felt so welcome in your presence. So it's amazing to hear that you've been going through this journey. It's interesting,
yeah.
what we're experiencing and what other people are perceiving. So
Yeah.
just know, and man, thanks again. I know this is going to be a lot of value for a lot of people.
Yeah, dude, it's such a treat to be on here and an honor. And I love you, brother. And it's been so
Love
great
you
to
too.
be your brother all these years. And
Mhm.
I look forward to the next time you're in Austin to seeing you.
Awesome. Me too, brother.
Yeah, much love.
Later, everybody. Thanks for being here.